Well, hi, you guys. Thank you for being here. I'm Michael Hausum. I am very glad that you're here. So, welcome to the Buy Better, Sell Smarter, Don't Be a Passenger workshop. So, when we're done, you will know how to do all three of these things: to buy better, sell smarter, and to not be a passenger. And what this means is you'll be better equipped than about 99% of buyers and sellers in your marketplace, frankly, better than 90% of realtors too. So there's so much money on the line for a real estate transaction right now. The market is nuts. The confusion and fog for folks can be overwhelming about what to do. Interesting to me, a significant percentage of the folks that registered for this completed the readiness assessment before the workshop. And that's designed to let you know where you're strong and where you're exposed. If you have not taken it when we're done here, you absolutely should. It's free, it's quick, and you'll find it very helpful. So I presume that you're here and signed up and showed up for some version of one main goal outcome. If you're a buyer, you want to get the right house at the right price in the timing that's right for you. That's the big goal. And I call that buying like a pro. This is how you buy better. And if you're a seller, you want to get the maximum possible net proceeds within whatever your timing constraints are. And I call this selling like a pro, selling smarter. So right up front, one important thing. This is what I'm going to talk about here today. This is for you whether or not you have a realtor right now, okay? Or maybe you're going to be hiring one or you're not going to hire one at all. This is for all of you. So I want to first discuss the large amount of money that is on the table for you potentially, and that's whether you are buying or selling a home. So I'm going to share my screen. By the way, the slides that I'm doing here, I'm going to send copies of all of these to you in an email after the workshop is over. The median priced home across the country right now is $445,000. So I picked this home in Dallas because it's right at the median price in the center of the country, right? At this price. And the thing I want you to notice, first of all, everybody notices the estimate from Zillow, but notice what they say here as the estimated sales range. The swing of potential value for the sale of this home is about $45,000, okay? If you're looking to buy or sell the averaged home price across the country, this is the potential swing that's on the table for you. And that's 45 grand that is either yours or ends up being somebody else's. $45,000 is a lot of money. Now, if your market is like mine here in Orange County, it's very different. Median price here in Orange County is $1.25 million. So I pulled this house. This is up in Placentia, North Orange County. It's literally at the median sales price in the county. And again, it's just under a 10% swing, $120,000. And if you go to any house in America that's between these price ranges, up or down or whatever, you're going to see the exact same swing, a roughly 10% variance in the price of the house. When we're done, do the research and the math for your marketplace, right? Houston, Missouri, wherever. And you'll find 90 to 95% of the homes that you look at, there's a swing, a potential swing of about 10%. And that's the amount of money that we're talking about here. And definitely know this, if you're buying a house, every seller is going to be looking at the top end of that range or higher, right? And you're obviously going to be looking at the bottom. And if you're a seller, it's going to be exactly the opposite. You're going to want that top number, and all your buyers are going to be looking at the bottom if you're a seller. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. This $45,000 to maybe $120,000 swing that's on the table, or the 10% number you come up with in your market. Most people aren't aware of just how much of a potential gap for winning or losing money is there. And this should get your attention. It should maybe terrify you a little bit. And it should hopefully help to convince you that you need to have something more than just good, warm feelings and hope on your side. This enormous amount of money is the first obstacle that we're going to have to confront in buying or selling like a pro. Because I'm going to assume that you don't want the other fella to end up with all that money. There's a lot of ways you can give money away if you want to. I would suggest you don't do it as part of your real estate transaction. Okay, now you should certainly be asking yourself at this point, who the hell is this guy? Why should I listen to you? Well, that is a great question. So hi there, I'm Michael Hausum. I'm an active broker in Orange County with Coldwell Banker Realty. I first got into the business right out of school on the mortgage side 35 years ago this past January. And then I added the real estate license a decade after that. So next month will be 26 years. At my previous brokerage, I was the number one agent for years. And now at Coldwell, I'm year to date the number 3 in my office. Always have been the top 5 since I've been there. And nationally, I've always been the top 3 to 4% across the country. The reason I bring that up is what I'm talking to you about today is the result of decades of experience. And none of this is fluff or theory. It's literally stuff that I'm working on every single day. Now, another thing, you've seen or heard this phrase from me, don't be a passenger. I use that a lot. And I've got 2 quick stories that are going to explain what don't be a passenger means and why it is important to you. Why I use it all the time, why it is important to you. So take a look here. So you see this house. It looks nice. I thought so too. It's in Costa Mesa, right at Fairview and the 405 freeway by South Coast Plaza. It was listed for $1,350,000. And I'm going to read you, this is the MLS printout for that particular house. Exceptionally upgraded, 4-bedroom, 3-bath Del Cerro home, beautiful curb appeal, beautifully remodeled kitchen and interiors, then an inviting living room. The home has been stylishly upgraded with newer vanities, fixtures, flooring, lighting, tile, defined outdoor entertaining space. Don't miss this incredible opportunity to own a turnkey home. Okay, this sounds great, doesn't it? So clients and I went and saw this house. Total bait and switch. None of the furniture that was in the pictures was actually in the house. It was awful. The upgrades were old and tired. Turnkey, as it said here, more like turn the lock, throw away the key. The house was a complete mess. It was dirty. There was crap everywhere. Literally in the house, I had to pull up my phone to double check the MLS to make sure that I was actually in the right house. And it was an active substance abuse recovery home. Every single room had multiple bunk beds, clothes all over the place. It was an actual business that we had walked into. It was so awful. My clients couldn't wait to get out of there, despite, based on the description, being exactly what they were looking for. The disconnect between what we thought we were going to see and what we actually did see was enormous, like $150,000 mistake at least in terms of positioning from that agent. But this is the most important part of this and why I bring it up. This house was listed by one of the top agents in Orange County. Actually, one of the top agents across the country. I printed out her marketing piece. I don't want you to see the city because it's not about her. This particular city's number 1 realtor for 24 straight years. Number 1 resale agent in Orange County for the last 5 years. $2.7 billion in lifetime sales. $275 million closed last year alone. A complete rock star of an agent, okay? But think for a quick second about that homeowner. They hired one of the top agents in the country. Very few agents sell as many houses as this agent does. And they assumed that they were in the best of hands. I hired a pro. But what was really happening there is that their money was just pouring out of that house down the street. They had delegated control of this process to the expert and they were getting killed and would have no idea that it was happening. They were a passenger, totally blind to the fact that they were getting driven off a cliff. This is what I mean by I don't want you to be a passenger. Sometimes people think that if they hire the right realtor expert, everything's going to be fine. Not true. Now, the next story is on the home buyer side. So I met this young couple last fall at an open house. Within a couple of minutes, the wife had told me that they were going to work with their mom, who had her license, and she sold a bunch of homes. Not uncommon. So after the open house, though, the mom called me, and she was joking with me that her kids told her that they'd fired her and they were going to hire me, which was very funny. But then she started asking me questions, and it was like a full-on coaching session. Marketplace analysis, how to write an offer, how to think about contingencies, stuff like that. And then she actually called me a few more times over the next couple of weeks. So I ended up looking her up. Turns out she did have a license that was active. She got it a long time ago. She got her license before I did, so back in the 80s. She also had a lot of sales in her background, a lot of them. However, she hadn't sold a house in over a decade. That's a long time, over a decade, without a single sale. Would you ever hire a surgeon that hadn't done a surgery in a decade? Or a lawyer that hadn't tried a case in a decade? Of course not. But here these nice kids were, hiring somebody they trusted, her mom, having no idea that she had no idea what she was doing. And it totally broke my heart. Lady was a total sweetheart, but with the 125 grand or so that would be on the table in the price range that they were looking at, she was not the person that should have been handling the biggest financial event of their lives. Again, passengers, innocently blind to the fact that they were being driven by somebody that had no idea how to handle a car. This right here is a huge reason of why Haus Advantage exists and why I'm doing what I'm doing, because these are not unique outliers. I see this exact sort of thing happening every day. Good people that have no idea that they are passengers in a car that's actually going to harm them. So this is the second obstacle that we have to overcome, is to make sure that you are not a passenger. Remember, the first obstacle is to make sure that all that money on the table in front of you isn't lost. And then the second is that you're not a passenger. So let me show you my solution to these two obstacles so that you can not only buy or sell smarter or better so that you won't be a passenger. And it's the Haus Advantage Roadmap. This is it here. When I meet privately with home buyers and sellers to show them my roadmap and strategies, I actually have one of these printed out that's in my briefcase that we sit down and go over. Also, I tell them to think of that meeting like it's a job interview. They're the principal and the agent works for them as the employee. And then what I say to them is, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you what we would do together if I ended up getting hired and got the job to be your broker. So that's the way I'm going to frame this for the rest of this workshop as well, as if I am interviewing for the job to help you. So I have divided this journey that's on the roadmap into 3 different stages. It's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. It's a map. But I want to quickly go through them. The first stage is the preparation. That's this here. The first stage is the preparation stage, where we develop what I call the move ready plan, where we figure out the timeline and we actually build out and plan the strategies that we're going to use throughout the entire journey. What this stage does is it overcomes the key obstacle that I call costly confidence. Costly confidence is something I see all the time. It's when people assume that they've either hired somebody that's a pro or that they themselves know what should be happening based upon their experience and knowledge. But costly confidence, it can get expensive very fast if it's not the right plan. So then stage 2 is where the actual action starts, and I call it market navigation. Now we're actually rolling on the journey. And the two key actions here have to do with reading the marketplace and understanding it, and then actually applying the strategies that we planned for back in stage 1. And the important obstacle that stage 2 solves, I call market drift. Market drift is this super common error of reacting to the marketplace or headlines or emotions or some kind of external pressure. Market navigation is the solution that keeps you on the right course no matter the obstacles that could pop up along the way. And then the last stage, stage 3, is the final steps of where the journey concludes. And I call it transaction control. For buyers, this starts when you're actually ready to write an offer. For sellers, it's when somebody's got an offer for you. Now you're into stage 3. And this solves the obstacle of what I call closing pressure. And that's when you can potentially miss important details or be tempted to change up the plan to try to make a deal because of the pressure that builds right towards the end. So what you're doing here is this is when we're actually negotiating the contracts and then managing the issues that might arise all the way along prior to closing. And that's the goal. Closing is the goal. And if you're selling, that's when you get your money. Or when you're buying, that's when you get your keys. That's the goal of this entire roadmap. So if I were you then, I would be looking at that and say, great, there's a plan and a system, but what is it? What is going to be done? How is that going to get me the results that I need and want? What is different about the details here? I want to know that. I'd be thinking that if I were you. And frankly, that's a perfect question. And it's actually the question that you should ask any realtor that you might be interviewing. What is different about what you do? And how is it going to help me better than anybody else that I could talk to and then listen to what they have to say? So in this roadmap, there are 5 buyer-seller strategies that I use that are the center of this plan. Each of these strategies is designed to confront the specific challenges that every buyer and every seller has to overcome. And by specifically identifying these challenges up front, and then what the solutions are, that is how we dramatically increase the chances of getting the best possible outcome on our way to that goal. It's very rare that you will know the most significant or the most important challenge that you're going to have to overcome for any particular transaction or sale. And that's the same whether you're buying or selling. Nobody knows where the right outcome is going to come from. Buyers don't, sellers don't, real estate agents certainly don't, regardless of what they might tell you. In some cases, the other party that you're dealing with, right, whether it's a buyer or a seller, they may not even be totally aware of what is the most important thing to them. Years ago, my son was selling his motorcycle. It's such a funny story. So this guy shows up to buy the motorcycle, and Jack tells me he's not going to discount it. $2,500, Papa. Take it or leave it. I'm not taking a nickel less. And he runs out and meets this guy. A few minutes later, he pops back in, proudly showing me $2,100 bills. I'm like, Jack, what happened to take it or leave it? Well, he explains to me that this guy walks up, slowly and theatrically counted out $2,100 bills and hands them over. And Jack just kind of reaches out and grabs them. That was it. It was over. The idea of all that cash in one big stack overwhelmed Jack's certainty over his price. He hadn't thought it through ahead of time. He had no idea. It just, all of a sudden, that was the most important thing to him. The same principle can often apply in a real estate transaction too, on both sides. These strategies I'm just about to show you are the home purchase or the home sale version of putting a bunch of $100 bills in front of a teenager. And the key is that the stakes are bigger. So it can't just be random or accidental or guessing. And that's the advantage of having a roadmap and thinking through the various strategies in advance, is that you're prepared for whatever detours or surprises might pop up. And the analogy I use with them is that they're ingredients in a recipe. And just like with any recipe, the quality of the ingredients determines the quality of the result. And all the ingredients matter. Just like in a recipe, you don't skip ingredients and expect the same result. These are the 5 strategies. There are 5 each for buyers and sellers. You've got the strategy itself, you've got the obstacle it is designed to overcome, and then a short description of what it exactly means. So what I want to do is I want to start to talk about, on the buyer side, I want to talk quickly about buyer staging. This is strategy number 1. I call it buyer staging. So my clients, Chris and Rachel, bought a house in Lake Forest. This is the house right here. We found out there was a competitor and we had a multiple offer situation that was coming up for these guys to buy this house. And for most home buyers, that's the big scare. You find the right house and then you find out you've got to compete for it. And then we found out that that buyer was an all cash buyer. Chris and Rachel weren't. So how would you feel if you found out that the house you wanted was being pursued by a cash buyer and you were going to have to compete against them? You probably wouldn't feel great. However, we changed nothing about our approach. Even after hearing there was a competitor and then hearing that they were all cash, the listing agent was very careful to let us know that. It changed nothing because all of the stages in the roadmap here are designed to keep the plan front and center, no matter what kind of thing happens to pop up along the way. So here's what happened. Not only did Chris and Rachel get that house, their sales price was less than the offer price of the all-cash buyer. The seller took our financed lower offer. So how did we do that? Well, it was the strategy of buyer staging in this case that made all the difference. So let me explain this to you. Buyer staging directly confronts the issue of seller perception, what the seller thinks about you as a buyer and thinks about your agent as well. The key part is that buyer staging, all the work for that happens way before the offer is ever presented. You do the homework on that even before the right house is ever found. So Chris and Rachel and I put buyer staging into play months earlier. But the result of it, when it's done correctly, is that you become the buyer that the home seller wants to work with. If you can get a seller excited and positive about you and your agent, that completely changes the circumstances when the offer presentation itself happens. How many of you have heard of the phrase or the concept of home staging, where a seller will stage a home? For you that haven't, this is when a seller will take a vacant home and they're going to put furniture and accessories in it and design it. Nobody's living in it, but they put all this furniture in. Home builders do that. Every model home you've ever been into is staged. And they do that to elevate the experience of the house. And they do that to make it easier for a buyer to have an increased emotional reaction. Oh my God, this is the one. So they pay more for the house. That's the whole purpose. Well, buyer staging, my idea of that, flips the whole thing on its head, upside down. It's what we do to get a seller to want you to be their buyer. Now, you may have heard, it's kind of an older idea now, the idea of having a buyer write a personal letter to a seller. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before. This is not that, okay? Buyer letters to a seller, kind of a thing of the past. There's been lawsuits about them. And they kind of turned into, hey, would you take less for the house because we love it so much and the front yard reminds us so much of my Grammy and Grandma's house. That's what those things turned into. And they were a kind of a last minute Hail Mary hope and prayer tactic. That is not how you buy a house like a pro. Okay. So the details of buyer staging. There are two parts to buyer staging. One part is for you as the buyer, responsibilities for you as a buyer, and responsibilities for your agent. Because oftentimes a home sale is about much more than just the offer price. With Chris and Rachel's purchase, it certainly was more than just about the price. And sometimes it can be personal. Sometimes a home seller will care about who's going to be buying and then living in their home. So you got to check that box. A letter isn't enough. But also it's about reducing risk for the seller. Are you the buyer that they want to take the house off the market for? So staging helps reduce the perception of risk or identify if there are red flags. Or a seller might look at to see if there are signals being sent from a buyer that it is going to be smooth sailing. So you want to send those signals. And that's another aspect of buyer staging. A seller wants to know that the buyer has got all of their ducks in a row, the money, everything. You want the listing agent and that seller to know that you are their dream buyer. And of course, they would also prefer to have a buyer represented by somebody that really knows what they're doing and an agent that's not going to be a nightmare in the process. No listing agent wants to be a babysitter. And I've heard this so many times before. I've gotten phone calls. Hey, just so you know, Mike, the other agent, they really don't know what they're doing, or the other agent seems like they're going to be a total headache. So we're going to go with you guys. That happens. It's a reality. It's part of what a seller and a listing agent evaluate. So hitting all of these different hot buttons in advance, it takes careful planning. It takes execution. None of it can be accidental if you want to have the maximum impact. It's precisely what we did with Chris and Rachel. And it turned out that everything that we did turned out to be super important to the listing agent and the seller. We didn't have any idea at the time. We didn't find out till later. But that is how they ended up taking less money from us than the all cash buyers. And frankly, I still chuckle about it. When I think of that agent representing the all cash buyer, after the deal closed, they pulled up their phone, they got the notification, and they saw the sales price. How did that happen? My guys offered more. I just love to think about that. And they probably thought it was an insider deal or something fishy that happened. And of course it didn't. It was just that Chris and Rachel were playing a completely different game than they and their clients were playing. It was chess versus checkers. And that's what you want. And that is why buyer staging is just one component that is essential if you want to buy better. Let's talk about one on the seller side quickly. Whose responsibility is it to determine the asking price of the house? So strategy number 2, owner sets the price. It offsets value uncertainty. So here's what I mean by this. The asking price of the house should be chosen by you. Now, this might be one some of you have not heard before, yet I think it is an essential strategy to get the most amount of money possible for your home. And what it does is it addresses the challenge that you face of what I call value uncertainty. And this is what I mean by that. Your biggest challenge is that you have no idea what any particular buyer is going to be willing to pay for your house. There's a population of potential buyers out there. Of course, you want them to pay more, but you never know what's going to be going on in their head. The common and normal thing to happen here is that the listing agent is relied upon to suggest a number. If you Google this topic after this workshop, you're going to get page after page after page of real estate agent posts that literally say, if a seller won't list at the price that I'm telling them, I won't work with them. Or it'll just say that the listing agent should pick the listing price. You'll just see that all over the place. And I think it's a terrible idea. I think you should pick the price you want for the home, and it's the agent's job to go out and get that price. Does the car salesman tell the dealership owner what they think the car should sell for? Of course not. This is the price of the car, Tom. Go sell it. And if you can't, I'll find somebody that will. That's the way it works. And there's two main reasons why you want to be the one to decide this. So this is the why, and why you don't want to delegate it to your agent. Number one has to do with incentives. The real estate agent wants to sell your house fast. They want their commission right away, and they want to be able to send out a sold in 3 days marketing flyer and then to be able to post about it on Instagram. But the agent getting a quick commission and the agent having killer marketing content isn't necessarily a priority for you. My opinion is the only priority that should influence the pricing of your home should be yours. And then the number two reason to not let an agent pick the pricing, I call blowing smoke. Oftentimes, agents will pitch a likely sales price in order to tell a seller something they'd like to hear. This happens all the time as well. Wait a second. That guy at Remax said he'd only get you X? That's ridiculous. I can get you Y dollars more than that. Hire me. The reality is they're just guessing and they're making stuff up. So don't play that game. Nobody knows what a house is really going to sell for. Guessing or blowing smoke doesn't change that. We just saw right up front, there's a 10% swing that would all be considered an acceptable price for the house. That's the market price for the house. It's a 10% swing. Now, the agent, if you hire one, I believe they do have a responsibility in this though. What they need to do is they need to have a system to educate you on your market price. What are prices doing? What are inventories doing? How does your house fit within the current homes that are on the market right now? The competition, all of those sorts of things, the agent should help you with that. And then once you understand all of that, then you consider your own timing needs, and then you tell them the price you want for the house. Bottom line, your house, it should be your price. I'm going to give you an example of this. So this is a house in Costa Mesa. Ray and Idell hired me to sell this house. It was their parents' house in Costa Mesa. The Slickers bought it brand new from the builder for $13,000 in 1958. So sticking with this strategy that I use, they picked the listing price after I had helped them understand their marketplace niche. Everything that was going on, they picked the price. And frankly, the price that they wanted was $100,000 more than I thought they should list for. I remember calling my wife going, uh-oh. But it's their house. We went with their number. Turns out they were right. We had multiple offers. We got it just below their asking price. And if I had opened my big mouth and told them what I thought it was worth and convinced them what it was worth, it probably would have cost them like $70,000 or $80,000. This right here is a perfect example of how this strategy can put more money in your pocket as a seller. Now, I want to quickly also talk about a strategy number 5. And this is a strategy that applies for both buyers and home sellers. And that's this one right here. In-person offers. It's my favorite strategy for both buyers and sellers. I could spend the next 5 hours telling you story after story of how it made such a huge difference for buyer clients and seller clients. So the way this works, I think that you should require that your offers get presented in person. Don't email your offer. Nowadays, the overwhelming majority of offers are done via email. And it even usually says it right in the MLS. Email offers to Realtor. So what happens is the buyer's agent gets the offer signed. They send off a PDF to the listing agent, who then discusses it with the seller. And then they communicate an acceptance or a counteroffer back by email. And sometimes there's a day or two or three or back and forth. That's 98% of real estate transactions nowadays. But this is not the way that it used to be. Used to be that the vast majority were all presented in person. In fact, when I first got into the business, you needed a written authorization to fax an offer. DJ, you probably don't even know what a fax machine is. Okay, I want to give you two quick stories about in-person offers. First is the selling side. Last fall, did an in-person offer on one of my listings. It was Richard in the meeting. It was Richard, who was my seller, the buyer agent, and then his two clients. That was this sweet young couple. So this is Richard's house right here. In this particular case, the buyer's agent was young, like late 20s. He had never heard of an in-person offer before, but he was totally down to do it. It went perfectly. The entire transaction was negotiated in about 15 minutes, just as we planned, and it was negotiated at the dining room table just to the left here. And in the middle of it, Richard and I could tell that our counteroffer was more than they wanted. I could literally see it in their eyes when we countered their initial offer, that they were disappointed. After the fact, the buyer's agent told me that our counteroffer was $20,000 higher than their ceiling was that they had discussed before the meeting. But there was some private discussion, and then they accepted it. So Richard and I are sitting out here as they're inside talking about it. And then we find out they accept the offer. They accepted our counter. Then after the meeting is over, the husband and I and his agent were all standing out in the front yard talking. We're just chatting about everything. And we realized that my client Richard and the buyer's wife was still inside the house. So we walked back into the house. Both my client and the buyer's wife were crying, and it was obvious that they had just finished up a hug. She was emotional because her dream of having her kids run around their big backyard had just come true. Richard was emotional because he didn't want some investor to buy his house as some sort of money play. He wanted human beings. And that's what we walked in on. So think about this here. A couple of things about this deal. Number one, 15 minutes and the whole deal was inked. Momentum, good feelings maximized, perfection. Also, that extra $20,000 in the moment, that 20 grand would have never happened if it was emails back and forth the next afternoon or something like that. It was in the moment decision in the house, $20,000. And then you've got to layer in all of the real life emotions of three-dimensional in-person interactions. That's not docu-signed PDFs being traded back and forth by a robot. Not only do you as a seller want the buyer making their money decision in what might be their new house, you want to start things off on as good of a foot as possible as cancellation insurance. So I'll give you another example here. This is another house. This is up in Orange. A couple of years ago, Scott and Danielle, clients of mine, wanted to buy this house in Orange. And she was concerned about bringing their two little kids to the meeting that we had set up with the listing agent. Frankly, I had insisted to her, bring your kids to the meeting. So while we're in the meeting, we're sitting here at this couch. It started to get really, really tense. Back and forth with the listing agent. The seller was in the meeting, but was silent the whole time. We're in another room in the back part of the house while the agent and the seller were discussing the stalemate. And then the seller walks into the room, which was kind of odd. She hadn't said a word up to this point. And then she explained that she was the successor trustee. She was selling the home on behalf of the trust, which was she and her brother. Her parents had passed away. And then she told us that she had called her brother and they had decided to bypass all of the back and forth and just accept our initial offer, which was like 50 grand less than where the counters were kind of stuck at, because she had realized that Scott and Danielle's kids were the same age that she and her brother were when her folks had bought the house 60 years earlier. It was amazing. Now, would that 50 grand for Scott and Danielle had been on the table had we not showed up in person? Probably not. Now, does this happen every time? No. Sometimes we can't even get the meeting, but oftentimes it does. And that's why you always have to put all of these ingredients into the mix to get the recipe right. Across the marketplace, in-person offers now are very rare. You got to find somebody that's my age or older that has ever done it. Basically, nobody puts these into practice as a business priority. But as far as I'm concerned, that's money left on the table with every single sale or purchase where it's done by email. So let this sit for a second. I think it's an essential strategy. I just told you these two stories. But out in the marketplace, it actually almost never happens. That is money lost by someone on almost every single sale. When you're interviewing an agent, ask them about doing an offer in person, and listen. They're either going to look at you like you started speaking to them in ancient Greek, or they're just going to say, no, nobody does that anymore. Well, I think it's a problem because I think it's a powerful strategy and I think it works and I do it every day. Frankly, I could tell you story after story about all of these various different strategies here. Let me put this back on the screen. I could go through all of these different strategies and explain to you how one or the other made a huge difference, or how a combination turned out to be super powerful and important in this case or that case. The key point about all of those stories would be, I never find out what was the most impactful point until way later. And sometimes I never find out at all. I don't know which of the strategies actually made the biggest impact. I do know this, up front, you never know. It's impossible to know which one is going to make the big difference, or which of the combination will, or maybe none of them will. You just don't know. But what you have to do is you have to stack them all on top of each other to increase the pressure, to increase the chance of one of them hitting the target and hitting home. I can tell you this, none of your competition, none of the people that are across the table from you in the future, whether they're buying or selling, are going to be running this kind of program. That just doesn't happen. This is how you buy or sell like a pro. This is how you buy better. This is how you sell smarter. And then understanding it, being in control of it from start to finish, to make sure that it's being done the right way and to make sure that it's being done correctly. That's how you do it, by not being a passenger. So hopefully the biggest thing you've taken away from what I've been talking about here is there are simply too many opportunities throughout this journey to accidentally leave money on the table or unknowingly make a costly mistake. And as we discussed at the beginning, the amount of money at risk is roughly 10% of the price of the home. And guessing about it or hoping about it is not a reliable strategy for making sure that you don't lose this money. The vast majority of your competitors in the marketplace are not aware of these solutions that I've just showed you. And they have no idea, they have no actual plan for what they should be doing. So what do you do next? So there's two things that you can do at this point. You can take the info that I've given you and you can try to do it on your own. Or you can get my help. And if you would like my help, I have two options for you. Option number one, firstly, if you're here in Orange County or Orange County area and you do not have an agent, we can set up a quick chat about your plan and what you're looking for. And then we can discuss whether it would make sense for us to work together with me as your broker. And then we would literally put this plan into action together. Me working for you, that's option number one. The second option is for everybody else in Orange County, outside of Orange County, anywhere across the country. Whether you have a real estate agent or not, or you plan to never use one at all, the second option is for you. It's unique and there's nothing like it in the marketplace. And it's called the Next Home Advantage Program. And this is what it does. It takes the entire Haus Advantage system and it delivers it to you as independent guidance so that you understand how to buy or sell like a pro. So that means that you're not blindly depending on whatever real estate agent you hire or your own homework, or if you decide to not hire an agent at all, so that you have your own plan and know exactly what should be happening. And it's a shortcut for that. So the Next Home Advantage plan, there's two pieces to it. Part one is the accelerator. And this starts it could literally start this afternoon. It's the shortcut and it's the knowledge base. And you'll get the first core pieces of this immediately. The tools, the strategies. I have a custom Haus Advantage GPT for it. So you can start understanding and developing your own roadmap to know what good execution looks like and to literally begin to use it immediately. Now, one important thing about this, right now, this is the founder round, which means that you're getting in while I'm still building out this part of the program. And there will be more lessons and tools added as we go forward, covering the entire journey. But you don't have to wait for the full library to be finished. Literally, you start getting benefit today. There's no reinventing the wheel. There's no spending months piecing together random YouTube videos and Google searches and conflicting advice. The point is that it gets you up to speed right away. You can buy better, sell smarter, and not be a passenger. And then the second piece of this is the journey itself. And that is where we take everything from the part one accelerator and we put it to work in your actual move. And this starts immediately too. The part one, the accelerator, is the knowing. The part two is the journey. It's the doing. And the key is that you won't be doing it alone. So I'm actually working with you over the next 6 months, working through all three of the stages of the roadmap, building out your move ready plan, navigating the market, maintaining transaction control all the way through closing. This aspect of it is literally me walking the entire journey with you. I'm helping you think through your decisions, helping you evaluate your advice. We adjust when things change and make sure that the strategy is actually being put into practice. So that regardless of the realtor that you hire, or even if you don't hire one at all, you've got me helping you in your corner for the entire move. So if that option sounds interesting, I can send you the offer document with all of the details and the pricing, and then we can set up a quick call to talk through your situation. So option number one, this is for OC residents or the Orange County area, Southern California. And this is for me to be your actual broker, to me to represent you. And then the rest is everyone else. And that's the Advantage program. And you can just email me back which one you'd like to discuss. It's mph@houseadvantage.com. Okay, looks like there's been a couple questions, which we're going to get into here in just a second. One thing I should also mention, I'm actually, what time is it here? In 2 hours, I've got a meeting at a listing of mine tonight. I've got 2 people coming to my listing to present an offer in person. Multiple buyers are coming to my listing to meet with me and my clients to do that. Well, now it's 1 hour and 59 minutes. Everybody shows up. If you're a seller, multiple in-person offer is by far the sexiest thing. It's my very favorite thing about this business. Can you be specific about staging yourself as a buyer? That's a question from Angela, who is no longer here. What's a GPT? GPT, that's an AI. It's basically an artificial intelligence that I have downloaded every single piece of content I have done, my entire roadmap, all of my challenges, all of my solutions. It's basically an entire brain dump of everything I know and everything I've done in a custom AI so that you can essentially ask Michael. The problem with artificial intelligence is if you go on to ChatGPT or Claude or Victor or whatever right now and you ask them questions, you're going to get average advice. And my custom GPT and everything I'm doing in my Advantage program is not average advice. Let's put it this way. If the two buyers coming to my listing tonight to present an offer have been educated and informed by ChatGPT or Claude or whoever, it's going to be like taking candy from a baby. I hope that answers that question. Janae, question. What are your thoughts about real estate appraisals? Well, first of all, I hate real estate appraisals. It's the uninformed third party that shows up to give an opinion about what they think the other fella should pay for a house. It drives me absolutely nuts. And the way Washington, D.C. wrote up the rules 20 years ago is that the appraisers now have financial responsibility. So I hate it, right? In my experience, of all the people involved in the transaction, the person that is least knowledgeable about values is the appraiser. Yet you're going to rely on that fella to say, yeah, I agree with you guys. I think it's worth this or not. He gets paid like $250 to render his opinion. And it's funny. They treat it like appraisers treat it like a science. It's not a science. It's an art, right? An appraiser might come into my office and go, oh my gosh, I hate these creamy white walls. This house isn't worth very much. Or somebody else walks in and goes, oh my God, I'm so glad it's not a darkly painted room. Your house is beautiful. Same idea, it's just two different subjective opinions. One of the strategies on the seller side is that if you sell the house for a lot of money, over the comps, higher than Zillow says, you're going to have to sit down with the appraiser, with the comps, and walk them through to help them understand how you justified that value. And as a buyer, you might have to do the exact same thing to walk them through. Hey, look, we came to an agreement on this house of $675,000. Here's why we think that is a good price for the house. And most appraisers will actually work with you. They're happy to get the comps. They're happy to have a conversation about it. They may not want you to argue with them, but if you can help them understand the thinking that resulted in a particular purchase price, that can help you. So this is basically the way it works, is rather than just a quick little 1/2 page summary, you get all of the information, you get the artificial intelligence that I set up, and then you get me answering these kinds of questions for the next 6 months or however long it takes for you to buy or sell a house.
I've lived in 10 different states, and so I've conducted a lot of real estate transactions, and I have to tell you the finest real estate professional that I've ever run across is Michael Hausen. He's helped me with 5 different transactions. The one that really comes to mind is a service that I'm not sure you're going to find from anyone. I was needing to sell an investment condo that I had in Boston while living in California. He not only helped me find a local broker there, but he also helped me with the kind of working with him remotely to get a quick sale at a good price. Just unbelievable service, and can't recommend him enough. I've referred him to at least 3 other people. and he's done a great job for them. And I think of him as the real estate whisperer.
So as a first-time home buyer, I felt pretty overwhelmed and didn't exactly know where to start. Michael was a great advisor in helping me navigate the path from choosing the right agent to dealing with a mortgage broker, all the way through closing on a home. He really helped me understand the process and how it should work, and the things that I need to be doing and look out for, and also the things that I should avoid. And having him as my advisor, essentially my consultant, and not just a realtor, was incredibly helpful. And I recommend that anyone doing a real estate transaction would greatly benefit from having him on your team.
A few years ago, my wife and I made the move from Los Angeles to Arizona, and we needed to sell our house in a fairly quick manner. Michael helped us through that process in just a tremendously wonderful way. He walked us through the way the market was. He helped us balance the offers we were being given. He helped us set up our home for sale to get the most we could from it. And most importantly, he never pressured us to actually take any deals, and would always help us consider the pros and cons of every offer we were given. On the flip side of that, as we moved to Phoenix, he helped us remotely, first by finding us a wonderful realtor here in Phoenix, but also during that process, advising us as we were buying our home. I can't recommend anyone more highly than I do Michael. He really was tremendous on both sides of our real estate transactions, on selling our home, as well as helping us buy a home in Phoenix, where he really wasn't getting anything out of it other than the joy of helping a former or current or forever client. I highly recommend him. Thank you.